Hey tech heads, Fina here. Today I'll be comparing the BYD Seal and the Tesla Model 3 with a unique focus. I wanted to compare these two because the BYD Seal is quite a bit like a cheaper Model 3 but with more equipment. So we'll look at 8 things in the BYD Seal that you won't find in the Model 3. Like a head-up display, a rotating display, an ergonomic direction selector, and a lot more. I have to say I was quite surprised by how much more bang for your buck you really get with the Seal. And also by the price of the BYD Seal in Australia. Now be sure to hit the subscribe button because in the next video we'll take a look at the battery, performance, dynamics, and compare the cheapest BYD Seal to the cheapest Tesla Model 3. So don't miss out on that. But now let's get into it. So let's start with the head-up display. Now, unfortunately, in the BYD Seal, it is only available from the second trim level up, which is a shame, but in the Model 3, you don't get one at all. And people would very much love to have it, at least judging by how often they write this underneath just about every Tesla Model 3 video. So if you don't get a driver display, at least a head-up display. But Tesla, known for its sheer cargo minimization and interior simplicity, will probably never provide one to its customers, so that's kind of too bad. The BYD Seal has a HUD, a very nicely done one. It doesn't project onto a glass plate, but rather directly onto the front window. So there are no mechanical moving parts. I would say that's just perfect. I would really love a head-up display like that in my own car as well. As for excuses like that you only really need speed data on the middle display, for example, I don't subscribe to that. I say no, it's just really not enough for me. But what about you? Would you like a head-up display in your car, or can you do without it? In another blow to Tesla's lack of a driver display, the BYD Seal features a brilliant 10.25-inch display in front of the steering wheel, where all the data is readily available. So you have things like range, power, speed, assists, a clock, and even the outside temperature. So just what most of us want. I mean, sure, you can probably get by without some of them, like the outside temperature, but most of these are really great to have in front of you while driving. Do you also like to keep track of all the data while you're driving, or are you cool with just riding and don't really care about anything else? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. The central display in the Seal is 15.6 inches, and it's also motorized to rotate at the push of a button. And I would say there are a lot of situations where that can come in handy. For example, putting your map in portrait mode. So I think it's really great to get a choice. Of course, Android Auto and Apple CarPlay are also included. Unfortunately, Tesla has no such option. So, for example, you still can't read a WhatsApp message in a Tesla, let alone reply to it with your voice. And I have to say, it's quite a challenge to find information about this on the internet. So granted, Tesla does have a super fast system, which is great, but when it can do basic functions that I've been used to for years, it's just not the system for me. So that's too bad. While in the current version of the Tesla, you have to select the direction of travel on the display, the BYD Seal has a nice ergonomic direction selector. It's kind of like a joystick. It's really right where you're used to having it, which means you don't have to look to select direction every time thanks to muscle memory. So I really like that. It reminds me of the Selector in the Polestar 2, which is absolutely brilliant. That on-screen direction selector is just really not for me. How do you guys feel about this? So in the Tesla Model 3 Highland, the turn signal lever has been removed as a cost-saving measure, and it's been replaced with these steering wheel buttons that really only work in the ideal steering wheel position. So try indicating on a roundabout while turning. I personally don't understand how this could have been approved for use, but okay. The BYD Seal simply has the classic turn signal lever we've all been used to for decades. I have to say, I'm really not a fan of these savings at any cost, especially when it comes to making the driving experience easy, straightforward, and intuitive, meaning safe. I think that's pretty important. So I'll let Tesla fans keep the steering wheel buttons. I will definitely always prefer a lever. I do wonder how much Tesla saved on this, and also was it worth it? For me, this is just one of many reasons not to have a Tesla. What about you? Next is the wiper lever. So Yes, you operate the wipers in the BYD Seal as you're used to as well. They're automatic, of course, but if you just need a quick wipe or spray, you do it just the way that we're all used to doing it, with a lever on the right side under the steering wheel. On the Tesla, you can do it with a button on the steering wheel, which is probably fine, but it's another thing you'll have to learn and get used to. I don't particularly want to learn every single thing in a car over and over again. What about you? Do you want to be able to control basic functions the way that we're all used to, or do you think that getting rid of these levers is no biggie and I'm just being whiny? Next are exterior door handles. So while the Tesla has these easily manufactured but not very ergonomic mechanical door handles, which have major problems in freezing weather, and I've read many complaints about this, the BYD Seal has these electrically extendable, massive, classic door handles. I don't know how they'll work in the winter, but at first glance, I do think that they'll do much better than the Tesla. But have any of you guys experienced any issues with Tesla door handles in the winter? Please let me know. Okay, next up we have, or rather don't have, the parking sensors. So as I'm sure you know, Tesla has removed the conventional ultrasonic sensors and replaced them with the often unreliable Tesla Vision, which uses cameras instead of sensors. And I'll leave a link in the description to a video where you can perfectly see how bad and dangerous this system is now. To me, this is just unbelievable. The BYD Seal has classic ultrasonic sensors that work as they're supposed to. They even show the distance to an obstacle in centimeters, and they pair perfectly with a 360-degree camera with a 3D view of the car model, which Tesla also doesn't have. So it's interesting to me how many things that I'd want in a car the Tesla Model 3 doesn't have, and yet it's one of the best-selling sedans. So I'm wondering why. Am I just really high maintenance? And what about V2L? So unfortunately, Tesla doesn't even have V2L support. They do say V2G support is coming, but it's not available as of yet. The BYD Seal has a classic V2L with 3.3 kilowatts of power. Unfortunately, it is only with an outdoor outlet via an adapter to the charging port, but it's definitely better than nothing. Add to that the fact that the price in Australia for the BYD Seal standard range is about 12,000 Australian dollars less than the Tesla Model 3 rear-wheel drive. And the choice seems pretty clear to me. The Tesla Model 3 is full of compromises that I personally would not want to get used to. So for me, the BYD Seal is the obvious choice here. And I'd probably buy Tesla shares with the extra 12,000 Australian dollars. I know I may come across as a Tesla hater sometimes, but I'm surprisingly not. I do think that Tesla has an excellent ecosystem that I'm really a fan of. But unfortunately, their cars just aren't for me. Anyways, go ahead and subscribe so you don't miss the next video where we'll look at specs and compare the cheapest BYD Seal with the cheapest Tesla Model 3. Also, leave me a comment to let me know what do you think about the difference in equipment here. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.